I've sat across the table from men who thought they were untouchable. CEOs with offshore accounts, CFOs with 2 sets of books, lawyers who smiled through depositions while lying about every third sentence. After 35 years as a forensic accountant, I know what a lie looks like. I know the little tells, the too steady eye contact. The answer that comes a half-second too fast. I just never thought I'd find one inside my own daughter's house. My name is Norma Hale. I'm 67 years old. I'm a widow. My husband Harold passed in March, heart attack in his sleep, 38 years of marriage and then just gone. For 2 months after the funeral, I stayed in our house in South Pittsburgh and told myself I was fine. My neighbor Linda brought casseroles. I kept Harold's coffee mug on the counter because putting it away felt too permanent. Then Diane called. "Mom, you shouldn't be alone in that big house," she said. "We have the guest wing. Philip just had it renovated. You'd have your own space, your own bathroom. Just try it, please." Diane is my only daughter. She's 38, married to Philip Greer, who built some kind of tech company down in Atlanta. They live in a suburb where every lawn looks identical and every house has a 3-car garage. I'd visited twice before. The house made me uncomfortable both times, but I told myself that was just me being old-fashioned. I said yes, I packed up what I needed, and I drove down in April. I should have trusted my gut. The house was what Philip called smart. Every light, every lock, every thermostat controlled through his phone or through little white speakers mounted in the corners of every room. A robotic voice announced the temperature when I walked from one room to another. The guest wing had a digital keypad lock. Philip set the code. He said it was easier than a key. The first evening, he also took my car keys. "The roads around here are tricky at night. Mom, lots of curves, no streetlights. Just while you're getting settled." He smiled when he said it. Philip always smiles. It's the kind of smile that's been rehearsed until it looks natural. He's 43. Always dressed like he's about to give a presentation. He uses words like bandwidth and ecosystem when he's talking about things that have nothing to do with computers. People don't question him much. He's figured out how to occupy a room in a way that makes other people feel like they're the guests. I noticed the phone signal was weak in the guest wing. Philip suggested I connect to the house Wi-Fi. I did. It took me 3 days to realize that his router logged every message I sent. None of this landed on me all at once. It came in pieces the way a balance sheet reveals itself when you know what to look for. The piece that broke everything open was the medication. I've been on lisinopril for my blood pressure for 5 years. Same prescription, same pharmacy, same little blue pill with a clean stamped L on one side. I know that pill the way I know my own handwriting. On my second night at the house, Philip came to the guest wing at 9 p.m. with a silver tray, glass of water, plastic pill organizer, that same smile. "Doctor's orders, Mom. We need to keep that blood pressure steady." I said thank you. I took the cup. And when he left, I walked into the bathroom, waited until I heard his footsteps reach the bottom of the stairs and spit the pill into my palm. It wasn't suspicion exactly. More like habit. 35 years of auditing means you verify before you accept. You don't sign off on numbers you haven't checked yourself. I held the pill under the vanity light. The color was wrong. Too pale, almost chalky. The imprint was blurry where it should have been sharp. I pressed my thumbnail against it and it crumbled instantly into fine powder. A real lisinopril tablet snaps clean. I wet my finger, touched the powder and tasted it. Bitter, metallic. My medication has no taste at all. I sat on the edge of the tub for a while, not panicking, just thinking. I wrapped the powder in a tissue, tucked it into the lining of my toiletry bag and went back to the bedroom. I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark and started building a list in my head the way I used to do the night before a big audit. What I knew, what I suspected, what I still needed to find. What I knew, the pill was not my medication. Philip controlled when I took it and watched me swallow. He had my car keys. He had my phone on his network. The digital lock on my door had a code only he knew. What I suspected. This was not about keeping me comfortable. What I needed to find. The reason. The next morning, Diane came into the kitchen while I was pouring coffee and looked at my face and said, "Mom, you look exhausted. Did you wander again last night?" I stopped pouring. "I went to sleep at 10 and didn't leave my room." She sighed in this heavy theatrical way and pulled out her phone. "Philip said the security sensors picked you up in the upstairs hallway around 3 in the morning. He said you were calling for Dad. Harold is dead, Diane." "I'm fully aware of that. I was in my bed." She turned back to the flowers she was arranging for some charity event and said, "Just take your medicine and try to rest. The doctor said the paranoia comes in waves." I looked at my daughter's back. She wasn't trying to be cruel. That was the part that was hard to sit with. She was scared of anything that might crack the life she'd built with Philip. She needed everything to be fine, so she decided everything was fine, and she was going to hold on to that decision no matter what I said. I didn't argue. An auditor knows that when the books are cooked, you don't tip off the accountant in the next office. You gather your evidence first. I went back upstairs and sat by the window and thought about what Diane had just told me. Security sensors, hallway footage. Me wandering at 3 a.m. calling for Harold. Except I wasn't. That afternoon, while Philip was at his downtown office and Diane was out running errands for her gala, my grandson Terry came to my room with his laptop. Terry is 15. He's the quiet kind of smart, the kind that doesn't announce itself. He'd figured out months ago that Philip had put a curfew on the house internet, cutting off gaming after 10 p.m. So Terry found a backdoor in the network code and used it to play past midnight without anyone knowing. He never mentioned it to his parents, just used it quietly and kept his mouth shut. He set the laptop on my bed and pulled up the security log files. I was checking the footage from last night, he said, keeping his voice low, because Mom was talking about you wandering again. I wanted to see what actually happened. He hit play on a video file, infrared camera, upstairs hallway, timestamp reading 3:14 a.m. A figure in a floral nightgown paced back and forth outside my bedroom door, arms waving, calling out Harold's name. The voice was cracked and desperate. The figure sounded completely lost. I watched it twice without saying anything. That's not me, I said. I know, Terry said. Watch the face when she opens her mouth. He zoomed in. The edges of the face blurred in a way that real infrared footage doesn't blur. The shadows on the cheekbones didn't line up with the light source in the hallway. The teeth when the mouth opened looked slightly off, like something rendered rather than filmed. It's AI generated, Terry said. He wasn't showing off. He sounded like a kid who'd found something he wished he hadn't. Dad has a program running on his private server downstairs. Not the house network, a separate one. I found the folder a few weeks ago, but I didn't know what it was for. He fed it your old home videos and voicemails, stuff from years back. It generates fake clips of you and injects them directly into the security log. So when Mom checks the app on her phone, this is what she sees. I closed the laptop and set it on the bed next to me. Philip wasn't just giving me bad medication. He was building a file, fake security footage, probably fake doctor's reports too, all pointing to the same conclusion. An elderly widow with rapidly worsening dementia. A danger to herself, mentally incompetent. If I walked into a police station and told them I was being drugged, he'd hand them that footage. He'd hand them whatever medical documentation he'd arranged. I wouldn't look like a victim. I'd look like exactly what he was manufacturing. Why is he doing this? Terry asked. He was trying to keep his voice steady. Because he needs money, I said. And he thinks I have it. Terry looked at me. Can you prove it? I need to get into his office. Terry shook his head slowly. The biometric lock, it reads his actual fingerprint, and the second that door opens, it sends an alert to his phone. I don't need you to hack the lock, I said. I just need you to kill the camera in the hallway outside that office for 15 minutes. During the gala tomorrow night, when this house is full of people and Philip is playing host downstairs. He thought about it for a moment. Then he nodded. I spent the rest of that afternoon waiting. I watched Philip come home at 6 p.m. and pour himself a scotch at the kitchen island and set the glass down while he checked something on his phone. I watched which hand he used to pick it up. Before he washed the glass that evening, I pressed a strip of clear packing tape against the crystal where his thumb had rested, lifted it clean. Back in the bathroom, I dusted it with graphite from a pencil stub I'd borrowed from Rosie's homework bag and blew the excess away carefully. The print came up clear and dark against the tape. The next evening, Diane had 60 people downstairs. A string quartet in the living room, catering staff moving through the kitchen, the kind of noise and movement that makes a large house feel temporarily porous. Philip was in the middle of it, working the room the way he always did. Terry sent me a single period from his phone at 9:15. The camera outside the office hallway was looping old footage. I had 15 minutes. I came down the back staircase in soft-soled slippers, staying in the shadow side of the hall. The office door was at the end of a short corridor, heavy oak, with a sleek black fingerprint scanner mounted on the frame. I pressed the graphite-dusted tape against the glass sensor, applying slow, even pressure. The way you press a wax seal, the laser read it. A small red light blinked. For 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then the light went green and the lock clicked open. Philip's office was dark except for the glow of his monitor and screensaver mode. He'd left his workstation running. He hadn't bothered to lock it because he believed the biometric door was his real security. That's the thing about arrogant men. They trust their systems completely and forget that systems are built by people. I jiggled the mouse. The screen came up asking for a password. Terry had given me a USB drive before I came downstairs. I plugged it into the back of the tower and a black terminal window opened, lines of code running fast. 30 seconds later, I was in. I didn't touch his company files. Fraud is almost never kept where anyone expects to find it. I looked for the partitions, the folders with boring names, the archives with dates instead of titles. I found a folder called Archived Ledger Q3. I opened the spreadsheet and the screen filled with red figures. Philip's startup had been dead for nearly 2 years. He'd been keeping payroll running using short-term loans routed through shell companies. The interest rates on those loans told me everything I needed to know about who the lenders were. Those aren't bank rates. Those are rates charged by people who don't send reminder emails. Total exposure, just over $5 million. Then I found the subfolder labeled Estate Contingency, my pension from 35 years of federal contract work, Harold's life insurance, the equity in our Pittsburgh house, everything cataloged, valued, and flagged for liquidation. The power of attorney documents were scanned and dated, waiting for one thing, a formal declaration that I was mentally incompetent. I scrolled to the signature lines on the asset transfer authorization. I expected to see Philip's name. It was Diane's signature, her real one. I've seen it on birthday cards, on school permission slips, on the lease for her first apartment when she was 22. That looping D, the way she always made the tail of the E curl back under. She had signed the medical directives. She had signed the asset transfer papers. She was listed as secondary guarantor on 2 of the loan agreements. I sat there looking at her signature for longer than I should have. My daughter had not just looked away, she had signed her name to it. Whether she understood fully what she was signing, or whether Philip had walked her through it with the same smooth confidence he used on everyone, I didn't know. What I knew was that her signature was real, and the documents were real, and the plan was real. I started copying files to the flash drive. Then the thermostat panel on the wall beeped once. The monitor went black. The hard drive clicked off. The door behind me engaged with a heavy metallic clack. Philip had a secondary alert on his private server. He knew someone had accessed it. And then the air vent above the desk started hissing. I knew about the fire suppression system. Philip had mentioned it the first day he showed me around. No sprinklers in the server room or the office. CO2 displacement instead, to protect the equipment. Cleaner than water, he'd said. No damage to the hardware. He'd triggered it on purpose. The air was already starting to feel thick. I didn't run to the door. Running wastes oxygen and it wastes time. I stood still for 3 seconds and thought it through the way I used to think through a problem before a deposition. What do I have? What do I need? What's the fastest path between the two? The smart lock on the door was wired into the room's main electrical circuit. Kill the circuit, the magnetic seal fails, the door opens. That's how those systems work. The magnet needs power to stay closed. I needed to trip the breaker for this room specifically. Harold gave me a gold necklace for our 30th anniversary. 14 karat, a fine chain, something I'd worn almost every day for 8 years. I took it off. Gold conducts electricity better than almost anything you'll find lying around an office. I grabbed 2 letter openers from the desk tray and held one in each hand, gripping the flat ends like handles, using them to hold the chain without touching it directly. The wall outlet was near the bookshelf. My hands were shaking by then, not from fear, from the oxygen dropping. My vision had started to go soft at the edges. I took one slow breath, held it, and jammed the chain across both prongs of the outlet. Blue-white flash, a crack loud enough to feel in my chest. The smell of burning metal hit immediately. The chain was gone. The circuit breaker for the room tripped hard, killing the lights and the vent in the same instant. The magnetic seal on the door released with a soft mechanical whine. I put my shoulder into the wood and came out into the hallway, dropping to my knees on the hardwood because the air was cleaner lower down. I stayed there for about 20 seconds, just breathing. The flash drive was still in my fist. I hadn't let go of it. Downstairs, the string quartet was still playing. Nobody had heard anything. I got up, went down the back staircase, moved through the kitchen chaos without making eye contact with any of the catering staff, slipped out the pantry door into the cold night air, and kept walking. I walked 2 miles to a gas station at the county line. My slippers were falling apart by the time I got there. I asked the cashier to use the landline and dialed the one number I'd made a point of memorizing besides my own. Gene Pruitt picked up on the 3rd ring. Gene is 69. He spent 27 years as a financial crimes investigator for the state. We worked together on 3 cases in the late 1990s. He trusted my numbers and I trusted his instincts. He'd retired to a 2nd-floor apartment that was stacked floor to ceiling with legal boxes and old case files. No smart devices, no cloud storage, an air-gapped laptop he'd bought specifically because it had never touched the internet. He pulled up to the gas station 30 minutes later in a beat-up Ford Crown Victoria that smelled like stale coffee. He took one look at my ruined slippers and my ash-streaked robe and put the car in drive without asking how I was doing. Rove night, he said. You could say that we drove to his apartment and sat at his kitchen table under a single lamp. I handed him the flash drive. He plugged it into the tough book and I walked him through every folder. The shadow ledgers, the shell company routing numbers, the loan agreements with their cartel-level interest rates, the estate contingency folder with my entire financial life laid out and priced for liquidation. Gene whistled low when he got to the offshore account. These lenders, Norma, these aren't people who send collection notices. I know what they are, I said. He opened the medical directives. He read Diane's signature line without saying anything for a moment. She signed all of it, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. I don't know how much she understood. I don't know if Philip walked her through it carefully or just put papers in front of her and told her it was routine. But that's her signature, and those are real documents and the plan was real. Jean nodded slowly. I can take this to the district attorney first thing tomorrow. Wire fraud, financial elder abuse, falsifying medical records. We can freeze his accounts by noon. Wait, I said. There was one more folder I'd noticed at the bottom of the directory before the alarm triggered. I hadn't had time to open it in the office. I pointed to it on the screen. It was labeled Carl Hartley Archive. Jean double-clicked. It wasn't financial records. It was medical files, legal transfer documents, and scanned newspaper clippings from 3 years ago. The first headline read, Atlanta tech executive found dead in apparent single car accident. Jean said, I remember that name. He was Philip's original co-founder. Smart guy. Then he had some kind of breakdown, signed everything over, and a few months later he drove off Piedmont Road. I opened the medical evaluation in the file. I read through the listed symptoms slowly. Severe confusion, memory lapses, wandering at night, paranoia, inability to manage daily tasks. The diagnosis at the bottom of the page said early onset dementia. I felt the blood leave my face. Gene leaned back in his chair. Same playbook, he said quietly. Carl Hartley didn't have a breakdown. I said, Philip manufactured one. Same medication swap, same falsified footage, same legal documents ready to go. He pushed Carl until Carl signed over his equity stake and then Carl had an accident. Philip wasn't a desperate man trying to cover a business failure by stealing from his mother-in-law. He was something much colder than that. He'd done this before. He had a system. And somewhere in the sequence of that system, people ended up dead, and it looked like their own fault. Gene's phone was already in his hand. I'm calling the DA tonight, not tomorrow morning. My burner phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. The message was short. It said he had Rosie and Terry. There was a photo attached. My grandchildren in the back seat of Philip's SUV, still in their pajamas. Rosie had her arms around her younger self in that instinctive way kids do when they're scared and trying not to show it. Terry was looking directly at the camera with an expression I recognized. He was memorizing details. Gene was already reaching for his keys. He knows we're here, I said. He traced the network. Then we move now before he does. I pulled up the tracking app on the burner. 6 weeks earlier, the first night something felt wrong in that house, I'd cut a small slit in the inner lining of Rosie's backpack and stitched an AirTag inside. It had been there ever since, through school days and sleepovers and everything else, and Rosie had never noticed the extra weight. The blue dot was moving north on I-85. He's heading for the state line, I said. He's got about a 25-minute head start. Gene was already out the door. We drove north on I-85 with the headlights off for the last quarter mile. Gene killed the engine and coasted into the gravel lot of the Pineview Motor Lodge, a cash-only place with a buzzing neon sign and about 14 rooms in a single row. Philip's black SUV was parked outside room 12. Gene had already called the local sheriff's department from the road. He kept it simple. Kidnapping 2 minors, armed subject. They were 20 minutes out. We wait, Gene said. We can't wait, I said. He killed Carl Hartley because Carl was a loose end. If he hears sirens before we have eyes on those kids, we don't know what he does. Gene looked at me for a moment. Then he handed me his phone with the tracking app still open and reached under his seat for his badge. You knock, he said. I'm 10 feet behind you the whole time. I walked across the gravel slowly. The cold was sharp enough to sting. I stopped in front of room 12 and knocked twice, hard. Philip, it's Norma. Open the door. I have the drive. 10 seconds of nothing. Then the deadbolt turned. He opened the door about 8 inches and looked at me through the gap. The pressed turtleneck and the practiced composure were both gone. His eyes were red. His shirt was damp. He was holding a compact handgun down at his side, not raised, but present. Behind him on the far bed, Rosie and Terry sat together. Rosie had both arms around her knees. Terry looked at me the second the door opened and I could see him physically relax, just slightly, the way you do when the thing you've been waiting for finally arrives. Step back, Philip said. I stepped forward instead, pushing the door open and walking into the room. He moved back without thinking, which is what people do when someone moves toward them with complete calm. I've seen it in depositions 100 times. Certainty is disorienting to someone running on panic. I sat down at the small circular table in the center of the room and set Jean's tough book on it. "Sit down, Philip," I said. "Let's settle the ledger." He didn't sit. He stayed near the wall, the gun still at his side. "Give me the drive and the decryption key and I let the kids walk out right now. The drive doesn't matter anymore," I said. "Jean has copies. The DA has been contacted. What matters right now is that you have 2 minors in this room and a weapon in your hand. And every decision you make in the next 5 minutes is going to determine whether you spend the rest of your life in a cell or whether you spend it in a box." He laughed, short and sharp. "You're bluffing. I found the Carl Hartley folder," I said. The laugh stopped. I read the medical evaluation. I read the transfer documents. I read the timeline. I kept my voice flat, and even the DA isn't just looking at wire fraud and elder abuse, Philip. They're going to reopen Carl's accident. And everything in that folder is already off your server and onto an air-gapped drive that you cannot touch. He stood very still. The gun hand dropped another inch. I opened the laptop and connected it to his mobile hotspot. What came up was not the server access screen he expected. It was a wire transfer interface I had preloaded at Jean's apartment before we left. I entered the routing number for his Cayman account, 4.1 million, dispersed across 50 separate charitable trusts, with a simultaneous report filed to the IRS flagging the account for international laundering review. The whole sequence took 38 seconds. Once initiated, it could not be recalled. I turned the screen toward him. He read the confirmation line twice. Then he set the gun down on the dresser and sat on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. The money was gone. The leverage was gone. The cartel debt remained with no means to pay it. The legal exposure was compounding by the minute. There was nothing left to work with. Outside, the first set of headlights turned into the gravel lot. I walked past Philip without looking at him again. I put my arms around Rosie and Terry and walked them to the door. Jean was standing just outside with his badge up and 2 county sheriffs coming across the lot behind him. Rosie held onto my arm the whole way to the car and didn't let go until we were inside with the doors shut. Philip Greer was charged with 2 counts of kidnapping, financial elder abuse, wire fraud, and falsification of medical records. When investigators reopened the Carl Hartley case, a vehicular homicide charge followed. He took a plea, life without parole. The company dissolved within a week. Nothing left underneath the debt. Diane did not face criminal charges. Her attorney argued she had signed documents without fully understanding their legal effect, and the DA accepted it. I've thought about that more than I expected to. I still don't know exactly what she knew. What I know is that she chose Philip's version of reality over mine for long enough that it nearly cost me everything. Trust doesn't rebuild on a schedule. It rebuilds when the actions earn it back, slowly over time. The court gave me full legal custody of Rosie and Terry. Diane gets supervised visits on alternating Sundays. She shows up every time. I'll give her that much. I sold the Pittsburgh house and bought a small place about 20 minutes outside Atlanta. No keypad locks, no voice-activated anything. The thermostat has a dial on the wall that you turn by hand. The kids have a backyard with an oak tree that Terry has already started building something in. On Sunday mornings, the house smells like coffee and whatever Rosie has decided to try in the kitchen that week. Last Sunday it was biscuits. They weren't perfect. We ate every one of them. Some people will look at a 67-year-old widow who just lost her husband and see someone who needs to be managed. Someone whose best years are behind her, whose judgment has softened, who just needs a comfortable room and someone to handle the hard stuff. That's a serious mistake. You don't stop being who you are just because someone decides you should. The experience doesn't go anywhere. The knowledge doesn't expire. And when someone tries to use your grief and your age against you, sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one they already wrote off. If someone in your life is making decisions for you that you didn't ask them to make, pay attention to that. If you feel like you're being managed instead of respected, that feeling is worth something. You've spent decades earning the right to ask hard questions and demand straight answers. Don't let anyone convince you that right has an expiration date. It doesn't.